From green screen to final shot, today we are learning how movie magic is made.
I know people that are in the VFX that have literally worked on helping program the Mars rover.
What's the benefit of using motion capture?
Every single shot of a movie or TV show goes through that person.
Production, like, what does it actually take to like design and render these assets?
If you rendered it on one machine, everything that needed to be rendered, it would take like 64 years to render. I personally see AI as a tool, not as a replacement.
Welcome to the Enchanted Ears podcast,
where we discuss anything and everything Disney.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Joe. And on today's episode, we're going behind the scenes of how some of the biggest like movies and TV shows get made in terms of all the visual effects that go into them.
And the crazy part is sometimes you think like, oh, okay, that's definitely VFX. But then there's things in there that are VFX that you have like no idea isn't even there.
Yeah, the thing you see and everybody points out like, oh, that's not real. You didn't realize probably that entire shot wasn't real. And you just noticed the one thing. Yeah, it was pretty eye-opening kind of going through and seeing the entire process of visual effects. And so to help us kind of walk through this, we actually had an interview with Eric Kimelton, who we talked to a few months ago from not just a Goof documentary, but he is a visual effects supervisor. And so he like lives this day to day. And we're like, we got to know more about this. And so he kind of walks us through all the process. So super interesting interview. So if you're somebody that's interested in visual effects, interested in how movies are made.
I do have to say, like, I don't know that you have to be interested in that because
I
do not tend to be like a techie person. Like you watch a lot of tech videos and I'm like kind of annoyed by it low key. But like when we were talking,
I wouldn't say low key. I would say like
okay, high key.
Pretty obviously.
But like, having this conversation, like it was really, really fascinating because it is kind of like it's a peek behind the curtain and it's how it's made. So like honestly, I don't think it's even if you're like a tech nerd. It's like if you are a person who enjoys movies, you would want to like
movies, TV shows,
like
any sort of that like,
anything, any sort of visual medium. Then I like this is such a good episode because it's so enlightening, like just to learn sort of how this stuff works.
Yeah, and we really didn't get into it with Eric, but I think the other thing that's interesting is as this technology becomes more mainstream and more accessible. I mean, you see YouTubers using visual effects to extend sets and things like Mr. Beast does that. Like he extends his sets and creates visualizations and you see more and more people using this. So even, it used to be, it was Star Wars, George Lucas doing this type of stuff. And now like anybody with a computer can kind of do it. And so it is really interesting to kind of see. I will say, this is one, obviously, if you just listen to this, you can still get a lot out of it, but we do have some examples of what Eric is talking about and kind of the steps and the process that we're talking about. So this might be one you want to head over to YouTube.
Yeah.
We're Enchanted Ears podcast on YouTube. You can just search for that if you've not watched our videos, because we do have some examples of kind of what we're talking about.
And with that, let's get into the interview with Eric.
We are very excited today to talk with Eric Kimelton about the visual effects in your favorite movies and TV shows and how they are created. Now, you may remember Eric from an earlier episode this year, episode 343, where we discussed the Goofy movie documentary that he co-directed, not just a goof. But by day, he is a visual effects executive producer with over 15 years in the industry. So, Eric, welcome back to the show.
Great to be back. Thanks to be talking to you again and having me on.
You're like Batman. You got like, by day, you're VFX. By night, you're a documentarian. I mean, this is pretty coll.
I have to keep the left brain and the right brain stimulated.
Well,
do you have like a superhero suit? Like, is there a special one? Like, what would be your superhero name?
Oh, super digital firefighter. It's probably
Very
the worst superhero
You came up with that
name.
quick. It's like you had that queued up and you knew I was going to ask.
Well, I'm just used to like my, older people in my family asking me what I do, and I just, for a living, and I just say, I fight fires digitally.
Oh, that's
you make fires too, probably sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's a good mix.
Yes.
Well, we'll get into visual effects, but I mentioned the documentary, and I do want to start off by congratulating you on the documentary. It seemed to get a really great response. In terms of it was on Disney Plus, saw a lot of like press around it, a lot of social media. So seemed to have done really well. So
Yeah, it's been doing really well, and hopefully soon we'll be able to share good news about what else is happening with it. Besides this
oh, okay.
movie.
Oh! What? Wow.
Oh, that's a good tease.
Yeah, that was a
Okay.
good
Yeah,
tease.
All
a little
right.
too
So
early to go into a little more detail, but good news
okay.
coming soon.
Yeah, so Eric, maybe if you want to start with kind of your background. I mentioned, you've been in the industry a long time. You said you're a visual digital firefighter there. So maybe kind of give a little background, like how did you get into visual effects? How did you get in the industry? Then we can kind of like walk through. You're basically going to walk us through the process of how like TV shows, movies, kind of how they're made from like the pre-production all the way through the post-production.
Yeah, so I got my start in the industry like a little over 15 years ago. Um, Well, I've always wanted to work on movies, TV shows. Um, if you listen to the episode about the documentary I co-directed, you might know that my uncle directed a Goofy movie.
Hmm.
So at the time, he was directing a movie that actually never came out, and that's part of the story. It was in pre-production, and he got me a job as like a production assistant. So I was essentially, grabbing people coffees and printing things out. So I did get the job through nepotism, but as soon as I got the job, he was like, "Okay, I got you out here, so it's up to you to stay here." And he was true to his word because about 3 months later, that movie got shut down, and I just moved my entire life across the country.
He's like, you're on
Uh,
your own.
yeah, it's totally. And I was
I don't have any
placed
guest
in the
bedrooms
visual
for you.
effects. I was placed in the visual effects department, and there was a visual effects producer on the film. Um, and I guess the coffee orders that I did were good enough for her to want to like see what opportunities were out there with people that she knew in the industry. And I ended up at a company called Rhythm and Hues Studios. They were big on like furry animal movies. Eventually they One of the last movies they did was Life of Pi, which they won the Oscar for, and
Oh,
then they went
okay.
Hmm.
bankrupt.
Oh,
Uh, I was there when all that happened,
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, that's how I got my start. Is I was on in the visual effects department. I didn't grow up knowing exactly what visual effects specifically
hmm.
did, but
Hmm.
I've learned to love it, throughout the years because the amount of artistry and technical abilities that these artists and people that do all this work is really something that doesn't get talked about a lot. But I know people that are in the VFX that have literally worked on helping program the Mars rover. That's how smart these people are.
Yeah, because
Wow.
at the end of the day, yeah, it's all just like advanced calculations. Like I remember seeing there was like a Pixar exhibition that was traveling around, kind of like the science
Mm.
behind Pixar, and we went to see it, and it's a lot of just like they're all mathematicians basically that kind of invented the algorithms to do all this, the lighting, the shading, and everything. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, totally. It's yeah, there's a mix of mad scientists and like truly like artists. Like we have early on in the industry, or like before my time, there was like modeling. Like the company I work for now, they used to do um miniatures, and they had people
Okay.
that made the miniatures. And when everything started moving digitally, those people with those skills learned how to do it digitally. So it
Okay.
Whoa.
wasn't, so it's still that artistry still
Mm-hmm.
lives
Hmm.
within movie making. It's just in a different format or medium.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Interesting.
That
So,
is interesting.
so yeah, let's kind of jump into this. So, starting with the pre-production piece of it, and I will say, this is a fascinating kind of piece because you're basically like creating the movie before they even film it. So, if you kind of want to explain this process here.
Yes, there's a process called pre-visualization, um, previs for short in the industry, and it is essentially that where the director and the editor are basically mapping out the entire movie. And the bigger the movie, especially with like the superhero type movies, they're mapping out the entire film, even if there's like two characters talking back and forth, like in a coffee shop. They will essentially, it's like a really rough visual of like what it looks like. So it looks like video game level or less.
Yeah.
But you're
It's
just
like
trying to
it's
get
like
a feel
Roblox,
for the
right?
pacing. What was that?
It's like kind of like Roblox. I had my nephew show me what Roblox was, and I was very appalled by just how low. But like it is, it's like a basic like blocking and kind of like what it's supposed to kind of look like, so you know what's going on, right? Just like a blueprint.
Yes, you're basically mapping out the lensing for the filmmaker so the director knows like, okay, I want to get a close up here. I want to do an establishing shot here, a two shot. I want to have a big crane move here. They're like working that stuff out as well as like action beats. So for big superhero films, they're like iterating and iterating very quickly because it's not like you're doing a fully polished look of something. You're just
Mm-hmm.
trying to get the
Hmm.
feel and like the pacing and beats of the movie. And it's even going even further now with the technology of how polished it can look. But then it kind of transitions from once you have a good sense in previs, and that usually happens before they start filming. Go on to principal photography.
That was gonna be my question: is how long does that process take that they go through and kind of are basically mapping out the whole movie before they really actually start like actual production?
I I mean, it depends on the film, the budget, how big it is, but I've seen previs start on a film a year before they even started
Okay.
Wow.
filming
Okay.
stuff. Um, especially if it's a big tentpole
Mm-hmm.
movie. It's usually at least a few months before, and it can go into while they're actually filming stuff. So before they, you know, before they filmed, say you're like a month into filming, but you still have like another month or two, you're still working on the scenes before you actually start filming them because you'll often what happens that they'll film for a month and understand and get the rhythm and cadence of what they're doing, and they'll
Hmm.
update the previs to be more in line with what they're already doing so it's more
Okay.
cohesive.
So is this
Wow.
kind of like a digital version of basically storyboarding? Like before they
Yes.
Hmm.
had this, this would just be like where you'd kind of draw rough storyboards, kind of make sure you have everything.
Yes, and that still
Okay.
happens.
Okay.
Oftentimes the previs team will use storyboards as a base. Sometimes it's just the script, but oftentimes it is coming from a storyboard artist that they jump off from.
All right. So once they have kind of the previs, they're moving into production. What's kind of the next phase, next step of the process?
Oftentimes it's what we call tech viz, which is
Okay.
just the technical side of that visualization. So if I have an action scene and I have that all mapped out in my like a visualized scene, because it's done in a computer, and they're using like digital cameras for every single shot, they can
Mhm.
give all that information to the director of photography and whoever else needs to, like the people that build the set and in the camera department, all that. So they know like, oh, on this shot, that's a 35 millimeter lens. And I have this crane movement and this, I'm using this kind of a dolly. Like they have digitally the toolkit of all the equipment that you would have on set. So you could then give that information to the artists and technical people on set so that they have a guide of what it is. Doesn't mean they always follow it, but they
Hmm.
know in order to get this specific thing, that's what was used.
So it's like a roadmap, kind of.
Yes, it's like a digital blueprint, and some directors are like they shoot the previs, and some
Mhm.
directors are like use it as inspiration, and then they just toss it out and then do whatever they're gonna do. But it's like a way to work through ideas.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it seems like, especially with if you're filming like live action, obviously it's expensive. You have cast, crew. Like it seems like a
Like a cost cutting. I mean, not a cost cutting measure.
yeah,
Is that
but a
what
way
yeah.
to your point, like you can iterate quicker. Like you can be like, all right, let me try it from this angle, that angle, and you can kind of get that feedback a lot quicker versus being on set where you got to film it, you got to reset everything. Like,
Hmm.
oh, we want to try this
And
camera
then
now, that
yeah, you have
camera.
talent that you're paying like
Yeah,
Yeah.
big bucks for. Yeah.
and I think it really lets the like on-set producers and like the director of photography and first ADs and all that know like here's all the type of shots that we'll need to get if we're going to match the visualization, and they know how much time it takes to set up those type of shots so that they can plan in, and they may look at it and be like, we need an extra week to film this than what's in our budget because those shots are going to take you know 4 hours to set up, or
Right.
that sort of stuff.
Is this like is this relatively recent? Like when did this kind of start where it all became digital and you kind of like had the shot list ahead of time?
I mean, it's been around since I've been in the industry
Oh,
for
really? Okay.
sure.
Mm.
Um, and I believe George Lucas is one of the people that kind of pioneered this approach,
Okay.
if not invented it. So it's been around for a while for like at the level it's been, I would say, yeah, last 10, 15 years at
Okay.
least. It's been in practice. Um, and the further technology advances, it, it like the amount you're able to do in a short amount of time is just going up and up and up. So I it will definitely keep evolving and using it more, I think.
And I guess this is maybe a good point to ask this, but one thing I was kind of wondering is how does the process when you're making visual effects for live action differ from making like a fully animated movie? Because obviously both are kind of digital creations. Is it a similar thing? Like would they previs out like a fully animated movie as well like this?
Oh yeah, for
Okay.
sure. And like, I haven't worked on Avatar, but a lot of Avatar is like that type of movie. It's
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
mostly digital, or it has like human characters in a very CG scene. And you would use this process extensively because what you can do when something is fully CG is you can take those digital cameras and and how the characters are blocked out in the scene and directly use that for the final production because everything lives in a digital world rather
Mm.
than I'm receiving a shot from, what we call plate photography.
Okay. So you
Wow.
have kind of more flexibility after the fact with that, with like moving characters around and things.
Yes, because all that digital like environment and everything is already it's built. And the camera is digital, so it's all you just like port it over to
Yeah.
and start finessing it to make it look better and not like a rudimentary like video game look.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like this kind of makes me think of like the things that I like read and heard about Jon Favreau, like when he was doing some of like the Lion King, for example, like the live action, because they had it all built out and he could basically go anywhere in that world and figure out where he wanted the shot from. So like whenever you have like a movie like that, and you're kind of like, how much is they're going off of the source material and they're like, hey, like we don't have to, like, are they pre-vising that out still because they have the source material, or are they, you know what I'm saying, like, or are they like just using, you know, the original, like to create that?
Are you talking
You're
about the
talking about
Lion?
like remakes. You're talking
Yeah,
about,
like the
a
Lion King, yeah,
remake,
like something like that, or like Beauty and the Beast. I mean, there's certain things that they're, you know, using that animation for.
Yeah, I think they definitely use it as inspiration. But
Mm-hmm.
for something like The Lion King and what kind of what you were talking about, like the director would have like a camera with a screen on it, like that he's holding. It's kind of like a little like handheld um, iPad thing that they're looking at the world that is built digitally. So in this instance, like a group of artists would have built this big digital environment. So if it was Lion King, say like the Pride Rock
Mm-hmm.
environment, and Jon Favreau could like move around that environment like he had like a drone. It was like a CG drone and just moving around, and he can record that and
So cool.
do the exact camera moves that he wants to do on any part of that digital environment.
Wow.
Um, and you could even have like Rafiki walk in on Pride Rock in a specific animation, and then he could go in later after that and put whatever camera angle or camera movement on that specific action that he wanted.
Wow. That's
It's like you're in
so,
a virtual reality
yeah.
world filmmaking.
Yes, that
Yeah.
happens
Yeah.
all the time. Like I remember during COVID when everything like shut down, and nobody could be around one another. There's a film that I was on where we went on to a virtual stage, and the director was like in Europe because that's where he was from. And he was looking at in his country like what was happening on the virtual stage and could
Hmm.
control the camera from halfway around the globe exactly what they wanted.
Oh, you wanted it.
Wow.
Oh, that's fascinating. You mentioned Avatar, and I know Avatar uses a lot of motion capture for
Yep.
capturing the actors. Is it like what's the benefit of using motion capture? Like, does that make it easier to like animate if you're making characters, or to kind of like adjust things after the fact?
A million percent easier because there's a bunch of, I don't know if you've ever seen a motion capture shoot
Hmm.
suit, but there's all these little like dots all over the suit. And those are usually like around like the joint points of like where
Okay.
like your arms bend or like where your body moves a lot. And if you didn't have motion capture, an animator is going to have to go in frame by frame and move every single one of those
Oh,
points.
okay. Okay.
Whereas if you're motion capture, it's recording that digitally, and it basically gives the animator like a digital skeleton of how that person or thing moves. I've seen the motion capture, or we call it mocap. We've seen like I've seen a horse being mocapped, so that if there's a
So you
digital
have that,
horse,
yeah.
yeah. So you have that. So it gives the animator like an amazing starting off point. So you're not having to like guess or like interpolate what you're seeing. It's like
Right.
based on a real movement.
And then you
Which,
could just put
yeah.
that kind of skeleton, that action on any character. So you don't, it's a human, it's
Right.
a droid, it's a superhero, whatever it may be.
Yes.
Okay.
So like and it operates off of this, yeah, the same thing too. If you like for facial expressions, because I know I've like watched some videos about like they put points on the face so that you can get all of the little tiny muscle movements as well.
Yes. So yeah, you used to when the facial capture first started, there was like, I don't know, like 50 dots on the face because the same thing. It's like if you have a dot on your cheek here, and when you smile, this dot will like move up. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you frown, it might like move down. And essentially, a computer is trained on like, all those dots and how they move on different facial expressions, so that when the actor is performing the scene and has all that, if it's transferring to like a digital character, say like a Thanos or something like that, it's
Hmm.
going to use the actor's actual performance instead of like an animator like giving their own flair on it.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There is some of that that still happens, but it's based on a true actor's performance.
Real performance. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Really,
Yeah.
really interesting.
It
So,
is. Do you find okay? So since you do this for your day job, do you like when you do something like this, when you like take a step back, are you like, wow, this is like magic, or are you just like, yeah, this is just commonplace? Like,
No, yeah, like it's talking to you guys. It's definitely like, oh yeah, like it's cool. Like being in the like day to day, and you're using like all this technical jargon and stuff, and it just becomes kind of routine. You sometimes forget how cool it is to for that to be your day to day job.
yeah,
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 no, it's, I mean,
it's
it's a pretty
it
awesome
is.
job, it sounds
Yeah,
like. So,
I'm not even like a techie kind of person, but I'm like, oh, this is so amazing.
It can also ruin movies though. Like
okay.
the story truly has to be good for me because I can
Mm,
be taken out if the story isn't good
mm,
because I'm like, that's not real.
Yeah,
Or
you can
like,
see
mm-hmm.
all the
yeah.
pieces. Well, that's one thing. So, kind of moving into production, and this is where you'll kind of build the assets and you kind of build the environment. An example of this, I think I was seeing it was like Last of Us, and they were talking about how it was basically they're driving down a highway and all of the like shrubs and trees weren't real, and I was like, the
Right.
whole background of this TV show isn't real, and it's like when I think of visual effects, it's like I think of Thanos, I think of Spider-Man flying around, something like that. It's like there's so much more. Like that gets all the attention of like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, those visual effects maybe weren't the best, or whatever. But it's like 90% of that background of that shot was visual effects and nobody noticed. Like
Yeah,
it's
Right.
fascinating how much actually
it's
goes into it.
it's used for like a lot of the world building as well that
Yeah.
you don't even realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is when people don't notice or call things out is the best compliment that a effects artist can get because it's like, oh, you didn't even know that that wasn't real. It just seamlessly integrates into what's happening in the scene. A good example of like a more practical VFX movie, for lack of a better term, would be like a movie like 1917. It was like a
Mm-hmm.
war movie
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
where it was like one shot the whole movie,
Mm.
and there's no way they shot that all in one take. That it would
Right.
just be impossible. And it's going through this entire war, but you would never know that like they didn't. A lot of that was fake.
Yeah. A lot of it was
Yeah.
added in. Wow.
Yeah.
So what
That's
kind of is like this production process? Is this kind of like while the film or the TV shows in production, are you kind of building all of the environments and assets to kind of get that like polished, finished look that will then get added to the shots that they're filming?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So there's like major things that we know that we'll need to build digitally no matter what.
Mm.
Whether it's like a hero character or double, if they're like if there's a big action scene and it's even too dangerous for like a stunt person,
mm-hmm.
we'll make a digital version of that
Yeah.
actor that will take over the action so that we everybody can avoid health and safety laws.
Yeah.
I really I like that term, digi double.
Oh, that's what we call it.
That's very cute. Sounds kind of like a Pokemon.
I want to catch that one.
Yeah. I'll send you a Pokeball.
Okay. Um, but yeah, we build all that stuff so that when the production is like finished with shooting, and then there's like an edit that they put together, and then we can actually work on like individual shots or sequences. Those digital assets are ready to be put into those shots, because if we wait to build it until there's an edit, then it's just going to take longer, and
Mhm.
that could like extend out the delivery time or release schedule. So that's how it's kind of planned, is that we build these, you know, digital assets, environments, characters, props, whatever, so that it's ready by the time the edit is ready.
Wow.
So how long does that take? You mentioned, the previs pre-production could be up to a year. What is that like, kind of like production? Like, what does it actually take to like design and render these assets? Is that a few months? Is that a year?
I mean, if we have to build like a shovel, that would, that probably takes a week or two.
Okay. Okay.
Um, if it's like a hero character that's not, real, it's more of like a Thanos type, or,
Hmm.
some alien creature. I mean, that could take 6 months to like design it, because you're tweaking the design of it.
Right.
You're testing out the way it moves and all that stuff. So that could take several months. Um, I would say like if everything's already approved and bought off on by the studio, it could probably be done in a few months. Same with like a hero environment build. I mean, there's uh, some stuff like I would bet some of the avatar environments probably they could take a year to build. It so complex and like intricate. Um, but some of these environments, like if we're basing it off of like a real place, um, they'll use what we LiDAR, which is like
Hmm.
a
Okay.
scanner
To scan
to
it. Okay.
scan it, and we get a digital version um, of that environment. It's like the same thing that they use in like Waymo or
Yeah, like
Teslas and
self-driving
stuff.
cars and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you're using that, capturing the environment, and then kind of you just have all that data.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, do you typically have like, is like one team just work on like one character or one environment? Because I have to imagine, to your point, like it could take months to do this. There's going to be multiple scenes, all that sort of stuff. So like, how much is like one person working on generally within a film?
I think it's multiple artists working on the same thing. It's usually not one person. Like there's like for a character, there's usually one artist that is like sculpting it digitally, like modeling it, like
Okay.
a old school
Like
sculptor
almost out of
would do.
clay
They're
type thing.
doing
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, it's very, very much like that. And then there's somebody who puts the textures on it, gives it the little imperfections and like little, skin bumps and things on the face or like on the clothing and all of that stuff. They're like really giving it detail.
Okay.
And then there's another artist that would go in and it's called look development, but they're making it look pretty, like where it's all nice and colored and lit and everything. It's like where it really looks like it's come to life. So those are all usually all different people that are working on the same thing, and they're like kind of a mini like assets, digital assets team that is bringing this specific digital asset, whether it's a character, creature, environment. They're working on that together. So, I mean, if you have a big environment, it could be, 10 people working on that one thing. um,
Hmm.
and they could work on it for 6 months if it's like a really really big thing. Like that's
Yeah, that's
your
what you're doing.
job. Yes.
So if they does like the character designers, will they see that character through like once it's placed into a scene and it's getting animated, or does that get passed on to somebody else who does that part?
Yes, so it does get, you know, pushed off to like the team that is like putting the shots together.
Okay. Okay.
But especially early on when you're first getting it into shot production, the shot production team may be like, well, this thing doesn't look right in this specific angle.
Hmm.
Um, so that you'll need to tweak, that artist will need to then tweak it in order for it to look good for that shot. Because at the end of the day, we're all about wanting to make pretty pictures and, have things not stand out. So it's definitely a collaboration, um, back and forth to make sure like it looks really good and holds up in any situation.
I imagine that, I mean, that's a lot of collaboration. I feel like you have to have like some serious like I don't want to say screaming matches because that's not, you wouldn't have that. But like, I imagine
Disagreements.
that that would cause like some friction because you're like,
Yeah.
no, I made this. It's perfect. It looks so good. And somebody's telling you like, no, it kind of doesn't. Like you gotta tweak that.
Yeah, I mean that definitely does happen, but it doesn't happen as much as you would think because at the end of the day, like the director or the studio or whoever, or the showrunner, whoever's like the head creative person,
Mm-hmm.
every single shot of a movie or TV show goes through that person. So at the end of the day, they will say, like, hey, this isn't good enough, and nobody's going to override that. So, like, they are directing still all the way to the end of post production. So there is like a vision that everybody is executing on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say that they can't put their own flair and style on
Hmm.
things, but it has to live within the vision of the director.
Well, let's kind of get into post production. So actually, kind of producing the finished shots, post viz. Um, I will kind of say with this too, looking at some examples and we'll kind of share some on the YouTube version of this, so people can kind of see. I mean, you're doing things like you mentioned the digital double, but like blending the stunt actor with the main actor, or like moving the arms of the characters to make the stunts look more aggressive because in real life they're not hitting each other that hard. Again, things I would have never thought that like you would
Yeah.
do. Like you just take it for granted. Like, oh, that's what happened. Um, it's so much more than just kind of this like fully digital world type thing.
Yeah, it's usually just integrating things in, from what was filmed on set to
Mm-hmm.
what what story needs to be told. Um, So that's why we'll get like direction on, oh, this stunt person needed to do this more aggressively because if if we do what was in the plate or in the what they filmed,
Yeah.
it's not gonna it's not going to feel like the stakes are as high as they should be. So it's definitely like what is serving the story at the end of the day, and that like generally leads what needs to happen. And because visual effects is all digital, like we can literally do anything. Anything is possible as long as you have the time, or the money to do it. Like anything, literally anything is not is there's nothing off limits to what can be achieved.
Okay. So can you kind of walk us through like a post production shot, like kind of like what are the steps of you got the shot that was filmed, kind of going through all the way to hey, this is the final shot that's in the movie.
Yeah, so if it was, yeah, filmed on set, because it's different if the shot is like all CG. So
Okay.
if it's filmed on set, we would receive that shot, and we would we prep it. So what that means is we would send it to get a digital camera. So we would take all the camera information that was on set because they have like people on set that are taking notes on like, oh, is this lens, this type of camera, all that stuff. And we take that and make a digital version of that camera. And
So I was gonna say, when you say digital camera, just if people maybe don't understand, it's not a digital camera like a Sony,
no,
digital
no.
camera. You think of it like you're actually creating the camera in the computer, so you have that view and that angle and everything within the computer.
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
you're replicating everything about the camera that was used on set to make a digital version so that you can manipulate it whatever is needed for the shot. And it gives that digitization of that camera, what it allows for is all the other artists to be able to see that in 3D space on a camera, to know how it like interacts with everything that was filmed on set. So like if say it is a two shot of you two, like how I'm looking at both of
Hmm.
you guys right now, and there's like an environment behind that's supposed to be behind you,
Okay.
I would digitize the camera so that like I know that you two are like 2 feet away from the camera and that the environment is supposed to be 50 feet behind you. So the artist needs to know the distance of that stuff, and that's what happens in the prep side
Okay.
of the shot. And say I don't want the background that is behind you right now. The other part of prep is called roto, which is I basically outline both of you on every single frame and basically have a cutout of you, and then I can put whatever I want behind you.
Okay.
So we're inside a TIE fighter right now.
Yeah.
Perfect. I like this. I think maybe we'll get you to make one of those for us. So that's how we're gonna record from now on.
Um,
We'll have the coolest Zoom
yeah.
backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So once you have all that done, everything's kind of prepped. You're ready to go. Is that then when like you would bring in the assets you created and kind of start layering that in?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
definitely. We would start adding those digital assets in, or if there's a character that we needed to add to a shot, an animator would go in and like animate that character, say they're walking across the scene, but the animator then has to pass it off to what we call character effects. So say the character is wearing a costume. That costume needs to be simulated, like in the sense that if the animator just did it, that costume would be stiff and just like
Okay.
it wouldn't move like
It doesn't
normal, like
interact with the environment type thing, right?
correct. Like,
Okay.
if there was a cape, that
Yeah.
cape, you can't just have a stiff cape. It needs to like move in the wind and stuff. So someone's job is to simulate that clothing to manipulate reality or like to mimic reality
Yeah.
rather.
Wow. So this is why that you have the 1,000 names at the bottom of the movie, right? Because it takes a village.
Yes, because in large movies, there's usually like 2,000 plus individual shots. And if you have a like a big superhero movie, you could have, you know, 10 characters in it in like 1,500 shots of the movie, and that every single shot has to be animated. The clothing needs to be simulated. You have to light it,
I was saying you have
which
all the lighting and everything too. Yeah.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
lighting works. It's like how they light things on set, like they have the 3-point lighting
Hmm.
and all that stuff. They do that digitally so that like it looks the same, like it looks like on set, but it's like in a digital like software, and they're making the digital character look good, just like a director of photography would make an actor or actress look good on set. Um, and there may be a big explosion in the background, and that there's people that do that and they simulate what a real explosion should look like, or like if something needs to flood, it's the same type of person. And those are the type of people I said earlier that I know of people that like have programmed for the Mars rover.
Mm-hmm.
It's those type of people that are simulating. I call it the acts of God department. They basically, any act of God that they're just simulating that stuff. It's like all like a science equation, and they're do that in the computer.
That's amazing. And then, like, how long does it take? Because obviously you have to then like render the shot. Like, you have it on the computer, but then you need to get it out so it can be on the film. Like, what does that take? Like, once it's kind of done, is that because can't it take like days to kind of render some of these shots?
Oh, yeah. I mean, some of these shots, I mean, I've been on films where like everything that you had to render, if you rendered it on one machine, everything that needed to be rendered, it would take like 64 years to render.
Oh my gosh,
So like,
that's crazy.
yeah, so like the computing power it takes to do all this stuff is like unreal. And like now, especially with, you're getting these bigger and bigger formats like 4K, or you have
Yeah.
things like the Sphere that are like
Mm.
however many K, like what that will take to render is it's astronomical.
Now, are you able to see? I imagine, I guess you're able to see kind of like the finished shot before you render it. It's not like, oh, you render it and you go, oh, actually we don't like that, and you're like have to re-render it and wait another week or something.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can test it out first. Like you
Okay.
can render like a few frames to make sure that like, okay, nothing's broken the way this looks. So now I'll render out the entire shot. But there is the first time for every single shot where you have to render everything, and like, okay, is it broken? Does it look good? But there's always going to be changes.
Yeah.
There's always going to be things that people want updated. So it's not like people just render this once and then it's done. Some like I've seen shots that have been on like version 500.
Oh my
Ooh,
gosh.
whoa.
Oh, that's crazy. I was gonna ask you, like, what's the cutoff? Like, when, like, how soon before a movie's released, like, do you basically have to make changes?
I mean, it depends on the studio, and I
Okay.
won't say which studios, but like I've seen things be worked on up to 2 weeks before people are watching it in the
Oh
theater.
wow.
Wow.
Okay.
It's not like every single
Yeah, not
shot
major.
is,
Not
Mm.
right. Right.
but I've personally worked on things where we've dropped in an update like 2 weeks before everybody, like the premiere of the movie. But sometimes like I've been on films where we finished it a year before
Oh wow.
Ooh.
Okay.
anything comes out. It really is up to the studio in, in most part, in most instances, and the schedule, because some of it comes down to like, oh, we have our cast in this time, and we have a release date and we can't move that. So the time that you have to get the work done shrinks down if the cast can't do it until later. So you'll take every second that you can to polish the work. And sometimes everything lines up and it's like, oh, we have this really long, relaxed schedule.
Then you have like people like George Lucas who just like re-release it with. He just keeps tweaking it after the fact. Like, oh, we're gonna change this scene. This is gonna happen differently. So
Oh yeah, that's job security.
yeah.
Yeah.
Does like you hear a lot more common now, I guess we hear about it more like reshoots, especially like these big movies, like, oh hey, filming was done, we're going back and doing reshoots.
It didn't test well with the audience or something.
Well, yeah, but you'd
Yeah.
have to change stuff. Like, are you kind of almost going through the whole process of like, hey, we got the movie, and it's like, oh, this scene didn't work out, let's kind of go back and previs a new scene, and then that kind of drives reshoots. Like what's kind of the visual effects part do they play in that?
Well, I would say a lot of that is driven by the editors.
Okay.
The editors are like they put a movie together, they'll screen it with like friends and family, they'll screen it like test audiences and everything, they'll get feedback, and it's mostly story driven of why they're having to do reshoots. They're like, oh, we can make this part of the story better. We got this feedback where, the audience didn't really understand this moment. So we need to reshoot these things to make it all connect better. And that's generally what drives it. Sometimes I would say it's because of availability of the talent, the actors.
Hmm.
Like they may have had a short window during their initial principal photography, and they just have to go back later to be able to get them more, and they'll have the edit to know exactly what they need so they don't have to do some like really long, you know, 5 week reshoot or something. A lot of times reshoots are like a couple weeks or less.
Okay.
It's not like some big long, we're reshooting this entire, third act or something like that.
Mm.
It's more targeted, and to your point
Yeah.
of like, hey, we know we need this piece here, this piece there.
Yeah.
I mean, all very fascinating. How is like technology, as technology's advanced, you've kind of mentioned that a few times, like previs has gotten better, that sort of thing. And I mean, I think we all see like everything's accelerating, and AI and all this sort of stuff. Like how has that impacted visual effects? Like have you noticed things are different even from like 10 to 15 years ago, of like how has
Oh,
technology impacted that?
absolutely. Like visual effects is a very technology driven uh, part of the filmmaking process. I would say it's probably one of the most technical things of the filmmaking uh, process, and it it's all about innovation because the visual effects artists encounter certain problems over and over and over again, and some of it is painful to do and takes a long time and mundane, and it's a lot of like necessity is the mother of invention. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I don't want to keep doing this really mundane thing over and over again. Let's create a system or a tool that will allow us to do it easier so that we can focus more on the artistry of the actual work. And I know AI is a big topic, and like there's people that love it, that hate it. Like I, I personally see AI as a tool, not as a
Mm.
replacement. Because I like what I've seen of AI is that it it is not, you can't manipulate it for what a filmmaker needs to happen. Like, okay, yeah, it can, Sora can create this shot, but can then you go and tell it like, hey, I want this two shot and I want the lighting to be exactly like this and like all
Mm-hmm.
that, and repeat it for a whole scene? Like I haven't seen that yet. But
Mm.
there are things with AI that can take a really mundane task, and that would take, 2 days to do. Now I can do it in 2 minutes. Like
Oh,
it's more of a tool in the tool belt of an artist rather than a replacement.
Placement. Okay.
interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, kind of to your point, get rid of the stuff you don't want to do so you can
So
focus
you
more on
can
the
focus on the
creative
fun
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the fine
absolutely.
tuning.
Yeah. Um, well, if somebody is interested in becoming a visual effects artist, like what would be your recommendation for them? Like, is there,
What do you go into?
yeah, like what
Like,
is
what
there
do you?
something you study? Is there like a typical path?
Yeah, I mean, there are visual effects schools across the world now that focus on specifically visual effects. I mean, there's a lot of tutorials and things like that on online or on YouTube. I mean, you can pretty much learn anything that you want. If you wanted to teach yourself how to be an accountant, you could probably do that on the internet. And there's like paid curriculums that you could do that's not as expensive as school to learn how to do stuff, but it's also like downloading some of the software and like watching tutorials on how to do it, getting comfortable with it. Obviously, school is going to teach you how to do all that, but like
Mhm.
if you don't have the money to like spend tens of thousands of dollars on getting an education in that, like you could definitely teach yourself because I know multiple people that have done that, and that are very, very good and successful. It's really, it's like if that's your passion, you'll figure out a way to do it.
That's
Um,
incredible. So I like I'm like picturing like a 13-year-old sitting in her bedroom like I want to geek out over this, and she's just watching all these videos, and then she's like getting as good as some of the adults because that's just like what she spends all of her time doing, or somebody who's like even like homeschooled, so you can just take a lot of that extra time that you're not having to be in a classroom and just like apply that to
oh,
learning how to do that.
totally. Some of the best artists you see are the ones that are literally just starting out because they're not corrupted by any of like the old ways of doing things, and they're just like, hey, there's this new way of doing it, and they're like really good at the latest, and
Yeah,
they're oftentimes very fast because of that.
interesting.
Interesting. So yeah, so it's more about um, kind of just like yeah, working on your technique. I think like almost like build a portfolio. So to your
Mm-hmm.
point, it's like you don't necessarily need, hey, I don't have to go to school for this. It's more about like what can you do? How can you use the tools? Just kind of learn that, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it would be knowing like what part of movies do you like? What's the thing that you pick up on when you watch a movie? Is it
Mm-hmm.
like the cool set design? Is it the creatures and characters? Because that will kind of point you towards like the type of
There
work
you go.
that
Yeah.
you would want to do.
Well, Eric, this has been really great, really insightful. Appreciate you coming back on.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been great.
So I want to thank Eric again for being on. Again, I really enjoyed it because I
Mm-hmm.
am a kind of a tech nerd. I love how the movies are made. Like I think when I go watch movies, I sometimes enjoy more like knowing it's a movie and like how thinking about how it's made than like oh maybe the story wasn't great. Like there's just so much that goes into it that I'm just fascinated by all of it of how it comes together and becomes a movie. So it was really fascinating to walk through this. But I will say I was surprised when you said like oh this was interesting because I thought you'd be like I don't really know about this. So
Mm-hmm.
I think yeah it just goes to show like it's fascinating to kind of learn how the things we love
Yeah,
are made
how they
because
come about.
yeah yeah
Yeah, it's just there's so much artistry in there that you don't even realize, and so it is interesting because he said in the interview, it's the parts where they don't know that like there was like any special effects in there, and like it goes so seamlessly, like those are the ones they're the most proud of because they fooled you,
right.
and like that is
Well, I found that
so
they
true.
fooled me a lot more than
Yeah,
I thought. So yeah.
they fooled you a lot, and it's just, but it's really interesting because I do get like you were saying you like to think about how it's made while you're watching. I like to be sucked into the story so thoroughly that like I am in that world, and so they are creating that world for me and creating those characters for me that I'm living with during the movie. So I like that is a really like I think that's why maybe I found it so fascinating is they helped to create the illusion that drew me in so very like thoroughly.
No, that's a really good point. It's just fascinating stuff to kind of learn all about this. I will say for all of our listeners, all of our viewers, if you're still here, if you made it to the end, give us a comment. what you would like to see on a future episode. Maybe who we should interview next, a topic we should cover. Love to hear from our listeners. Let us know. But that wraps up the show for this week. Want to thank everybody again for listening. If you've not done so, please leave us a rating or a review. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. It really helps, and we really appreciate it.
Thanks for lending us your ears.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you here next Monday.
Bye-bye.